As I said, the NHS in Britain has now banned the use of puberty blockers, which by their very nature are prescribed to young people as a treatment for gender dysphoria. Only if you're involved in a registered clinical trial will you be prescribed those drugs. They have been hounded out willy-nilly as increasing numbers of young people display the narcissistic tendencies to want to be able to say, I'm trans. Should we follow suit here? We are joined now by the CEO of Family First, an organisation that has lobbied and taken interest in this issue for a long time. We're joined by Bob McCoskrie. Bob, sorry about the mess up with the time. Thank you for joining us.
No, good to be with you, Sean.
All right, this is a pretty big deal, and it would seem to me when I look at this issue around the world, Britain is way ahead. Britain has gone through peak madness of kids being transitioned and the Tavistock Clinic basically encouraging, recruiting people to be genitally mutilated. But it seems the madness is coming to an end in Britain.
Well, it's not just Britain, because you've also got other countries like Finland and Sweden. I mean, there's countries that are considered pretty liberal around this issue and have led the pack, the Netherlands as well. In fact, a lot of transgender medicine has been based on the Dutch protocol, and that was,
What's the Dutch protocol, Bob? Fill me in there.
Well, the Dutch protocol is basically the process that you go through to change your sex. So it's the following the process.
Well, you can't change your sex, can you, Bob?
No, of course not. But the attempt to the preferred pronouns, then the puberty blockers, then the cross-sex hormones, and then the chopping off for trying to create the... and of course, that's the problem with whole transgender so-called medicine, is that what you're doing is you're destroying actually what is healthy parts of your body, which is no other type of medicine actually does that to what is healthy parts of your body. But look, I think the NHS decision obviously has come off the back of the whole concerns around the Tavistock issue, which was the hospital where transgender kids were being referred, and there was a mass explosion in the number of kids being referred to Tavistock. What is interesting about all of this, Sean, well, there's two things. The first thing is that the rise in the level of puberty blockers being prescribed to gender-confused children. Actually, New Zealand is almost leading the pack in terms of per head of population prescription. And there's been a mass explosion also of New Zealand prescribing puberty blockers as well. And people like Bernard Lane has done some excellent expose around that whole area. You can go to his Substack, Gender Clinic News, and he has some amazing research that we're all
We might get him on the program, actually. That sounds interesting.
Yep. Yeah. And then the second key thing is that this decision from the NHS actually comes a couple of days after another major thing happened, and that was that internal files from the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, WPATH, were leaked. And now WPATH is the international body that develops so-called standards for transgender treatment. And a group called Environmental Progress analysed hundreds of pages of internal posts and videos after they were leaked to a journalist. And what it showed is that effectively the WPATH members basically say they're essentially experimenting on young people, that the procedures are not experimental, that they are experimental, and that they acknowledge that children are just not mature enough to give informed consent as to what's happening, to realise that if they go through this process, they're going to lose their ability to have children when they're older. And also they acknowledge that parents don't understand and are giving consent to operations on their children.
Look, detransitioning is now a big trend too, isn't it? People who've been through this process and say, oh, Jesus, I'm miserable and I got conned.
Yeah, well, there is a growing trend of that. We had Walt Heyer, who was a sort of famous US detransitioner that spoke up, one of the first to speak up. And, of course, now there's younger ones speaking up, like, for example, the American 19-year-old Chloe Cole, who, had started trying to change her sex when she was 13, went on puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and then had a mastectomy at 15. And then at 16 realised it was a massive mistake and has been speaking out ever since. So, look, there is pushback. The argument that you will hear from transgender advocates is that, look, the detransitioners is only a very small number, 2-3%. The problem is that all the studies that are done by activists using people who have come back to the clinics and obviously like the whole system. Detransitioners have been shut down, they've been mocked, they've been told that they're not legitimate. And so, they don't go back and take part in these surveys. Any research that tells you that there's not many detransitioners, if you dig deep into them, you'll find that it's not a true sample. There's no control group. It's very weak research, and it's designed to push a story. Now, look, Sean, you will be fascinated by this. The whole WPath thing and the weakness of that, there is a really, really strong New Zealand connection amongst all of this.
Tell us.
And it comes out of Waikato University, where there is the trans unit down there, and that is pushed by trans activists based at Waikato University.
What are their names?
And a lot of them, just stand by, I will just pull up that file, and a lot of them have a connection to WPath. In fact, some of them are actually on the board and actually have been involved in writing.
Okay, so now, just remind us again, because a lot of people, we're going fast here. WPath is the...
So that's the world body that looks after... the world body that does the guidelines for basically the world medical professionals all around the country, all around the world. I mean, any transgender doctor who is put under pressure, they will say, "Oh, look, I have just been relying on WPath guidelines."
Okay, I get you. Yeah.
But in New Zealand, there is a New Zealand connection, and it's called PATHA, which is the New Zealand version of WPath. PATHA, PATHA, and it comes out of the University
I'm going to be
Waikato.
honest, Bob. If I look at the statistics before, Rainbow Youth started recruiting transgender people at schools, and to be honest, woke political parents were deciding their kids at the age of 2 or 3 were transgender. God, I mean, there's one Wellington City Councillor. Oh, my God, how lucky I am. Both my kids, before they were anywhere near puberty, decided they were transgender, which is just, to be honest, madness. Bob, what should our government do in response? Do you think we should follow the line of the NHS and say puberty blockers for gender dysphoria are a no-no?
Well, I think